Hey everyone, welcome from the depths. I'm Menti, and this is episode 1 of the Squadron Shootout Season 2. It's been a long time coming. I was supposed to start about 2 weeks ago, but I ended up extending the build period because people needed more time, myself included. So, this is going to be a squadron-based tournament, which means there's going to be sea and air assets involved. It just so happens that our first two entries are very carrier and airplane focused. So we've got the United Colors of Freedom by Harness 1977 here, which comes with 5 fleet carrier class vessels, and I think it's 6 different flying fortresses plus a this is a tactical bomber, the Gertruda. And then these are all Delma, Betty, Fiona, Alice, Carrie, all that. We're not going to go into an in-depth look because obviously there's going to be a lot of vehicles and a lot of just different types of vehicles. And screw you, phone. It's on Do Not Disturb now. So we're not going to go through. I'll give a quick look over. Just kind of pan through the fleets like I'm doing right now. But we are not going to go inside of anything or do anything like that. If you want to know how something works, I will be posting the fleet files on my Discord in the Blueprint repository as things debut. So the United Colors of Freedom, I'm just going to call them the Colors, are going up against the Obdurate Airforce, which, again, is 6 escort carriers rather than 5. And the reason why Harness went with 5, or not escort carriers, fleet carriers, sorry. The reason Harness went with 5 is because it didn't really have the materials to fill out a 6th fleet carrier because the flying fortresses he's using are more expensive. So the budget, your fleet can be a maximum of 300 materials and or 30 supply. Like, it can't exceed either of those. Each class has its own supply cost. Whatever materials you don't use are what you get to use in the battle for ammunition, repairs, so on and so forth. So if you look in the upper right and upper left, that's why the two fleets have different materials values, because that's what they had left. Now, there is a cap on that of 50,000 unless you use a cargo class vessel, which increases that maximum. So the Obdurate Air Force here is a whole bunch of interceptor class aircraft interspersed with some high altitude cram bombers. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these two fleets interact, because they're both very airplane focused, very airplane heavy, which not all the fleets in this tournament are, but they do so in completely different ways. So let's go ahead and we'll get the camera into position, and away we go. All right, I have to do that. All right. Things might run a little bit slow at first because there is a lot of materials on the field, almost 600,000, but my computer can handle it fairly well. Just as long as stuff doesn't collide, that's always going to cause issues. See all that AA fire coming from the United Colors of Freedom, but so many missiles coming from those interceptors. What are they targeting? I think are they targeting the carriers? I don't know what the heck they targeted, but they detonated long before reaching any target. Now we've got a whole bunch of dogfighting going on, some heavier flying fortress classes up against the interceptors, their missiles, the AA of the Obdurate Air Force, just filling parts of the air with flak. So far, neither side really taking much in the way of damage at all. I only see one of the high-altitude cram bombers has taken a little bit of damage from the Obdurate Air Force. Everything else, full health. Flak is not the most effective against things that have good armor. Missiles are trying, but the flying fortresses are doing some evasive maneuvering. Can't really do much. A whole bunch of the interceptors right in here, launching another volley of missiles, trying real hard to connect with those flying fortresses. So far, the Obdurate Air Force is the only one taking damage. One of the fleet carriers of the Obdurate Air Force has taken some serious damage. Ooh! I think that was a collision. I think 2 of the Obdurate Air Force's interceptors just collided. Yeah, it looks like this carrier has taken a bit of a beating. But it's still active and still firing. Oh, wait, no, it's this one over here, 80% and sinking. This is the one who got the real heavy beating. And it is despawning now from 80% and sinking. That's not good. It does not seem like the Obdurate Air Force's weapons are terribly effective against the flying fortresses of the United Colors of Freedom. We've got some 2 damaged craft over here. What are those? They look like they're probably... It's like one interceptor and maybe a high-altitude cram bomber. Yeah, the high-altitude cram bombers didn't even get a chance to bomb the opposing carriers. One of the flying fortresses, Alice, has taken some damage, down at 98%, but is quickly repairing that up. The Obdurate Air Force is firing a lot of missiles, but none of them are really reaching their targets. They seem to keep running out of, they keep just detonating mid-air for... I don't see any shells hitting them. I think they're just, like, reaching the end of their lifespan and detonating. Which means the interceptor's target prioritization and local weapon controller stuff isn't set the greatest. And the missiles just aren't fast enough to catch these flying fortresses. They are real quick. Flying fortresses are the only aircraft class allowed to use custom jet engines, so they can get going real fast. And they can also have decently heavy armor, so they aren't particularly vulnerable to flak. They are a very nasty but also expensive aircraft. Yeah, most of the Obdurate Air Force has been destroyed. All that's left are a couple interceptors. One of the carriers just went up. There's one carrier and some interceptors left. I think this battle is over, folks. But man, it was cool seeing all the shells flying everywhere and all the missiles, and man, those the AA guns from the fleet carriers of the Colors of Freedom, United Colors of Freedom, are doing really good jobs of killing the Obdurate Air Force's aircraft. Like, even at this range, they're pretty close, pretty accurate. Those are some fast Sabo rounds, I think. Not quite able to hit this thing out at this range, but oof. That is a danger. You don't want your own flying fortress flying into your... Oh, that intercept lost a wing. But yeah, there's no way the Obdurate Air Force is coming back from this. This battle is over. I am going to call it in favor of the United Colors of Freedom here. Yep, so if I'm doing that, may as well get it restarted, right? I was just kind of watching and just enjoying it there for a moment, but then I was like, hey, you know what? I said I was calling the battle, why am I not restarting it? As you can see, it takes a little bit longer for everything to load in because there's just so much stuff. Or there's still missiles left from the previous battle. Well, they won't cause any issues. So, let's go ahead and get round 2 here underway, because as usual, this tournament is best of 3 for each match. It seems the big thing here is the AA on the carriers for the United Colors of Freedom is much better than the AA on the carriers for the Obdurate Air Force. At least in terms of the targets they're facing. Because the Obdurate Air Force is using a lot of flak, which would actually be pretty good against its own ships, but not so great against flying fortresses. It looks like they do have some Sabo too, though. Because there were some shells that didn't look like they were actually detonating against those flying fortresses, and now we can't see them because the trails are gone. But point is, ooh, Carry actually took a bit of a hit, down to 88.4%. One of the cram bombers from the Obdurate Air Force has been destroyed. A couple of interceptors damaged, missiles all over the place. And I mean, they are small missiles, so they don't do terribly great damage, but there's so many of them that if they actually connected, they would hurt. Like if the entire volley connected, you're gonna have a hard time surviving that. You see all these flak explosions around the flying fortresses. It's just really cool. But because of the flying fortresses' high speed, they don't even really... Like, all of the battle is taking place over the Obdurate Air Force's carriers. If those carriers had better anti-aircraft guns, like if they were able to deal with these flying fortresses better, this would be a very different battle. But because the interceptor missiles just don't seem to be having any luck whatsoever with landing direct hits on the enemy flying fortresses, it's having the Obdurate Air Force is having a bit of a rough time. And see the AA on the United Colors of Freedom. Yeah, that thing is having no issues with just annihilating these cram bombers, because the interceptors are not, you know, attracting any fire because they're all over there trying to fight the flying fortresses. So the cram bombers come in here by themselves and just get annihilated by the AA. We've got a bunch of fleet carriers for the Obdurate Air Force going down again. They sink rather easily, these carriers. Yeah, it looks like this gun right here is firing Sabo, but... Oh, that flying fortress is going up into the sky. That's Delma. She's taking some damage. No longer able to control herself. Well, actually, that might be flak. I thought there was some Sabo on those things, but I could be wrong. Delma's getting disqualification time. In 40 seconds, she will detonate. Oh, it's had another thing detonate for DQ. Couldn't tell you what it was because there's lots of things dead, but it was something on the Obdurate Air Force's side. Now, the United Colors of Freedom have almost burned through all of their materials, which could end up being a deciding factor as this battle continues. I don't think they were close to running out of materials before, because I don't think any of the flying fortresses got damaged that badly. But now they are basically out of materials. And now they're actually out of materials. And 2 materials isn't going to repair much. And Delma, wherever she is, just exploded up in the friggin' outer space somewhere. Now I don't know how much fuel these flying fortresses are carrying, or I was thinking maybe they use steam power, because I know there are some steam power entries. Doesn't look like it. They're flying just fine so far. And while I wouldn't say that the Obdurate Air Force is out of it just yet, it is not looking good for them. I mean, 17% versus 97.3%. It's like, yeah, that's not great. The only saving grace Obdurate Air Force has is they still have materials left to repair with. And make ammunition and whatnot. And running out of fuel or ammo is a definite possibility because these battles are meant to last 15 minutes. But more and more of the Obdurate Air Force is falling to the AA guns of these fleet carriers. And probably from attacks from the flying fortresses too, but I think those were more meant to be air-to-ground vehicles. Well, air-to-sea in this case. But you know what I mean. And some of the carriers are getting struck by missiles from the interceptors. But that is a dead interceptor. Well, AI dead. And now it's dead. Now there's a interceptor over there that's gone. There are no carriers left on the Obdurate side. And only a couple of interceptors. Yeah, I thought they might have a possibility of a chance because Colors ran out of materials, but no. Looks like this battle is going to end the same way as the first one. It's like this. There's like 3 interceptors left, and they're all damaged. So yeah, unfortunately, this looks like. Oh, you know what? I don't think I ever said that the Obdurate Air Force was by Branjamin. I just realized that. I'm sorry, Branjamin, but yes, the Obdurate Air Force is by Branjamin, and unfortunately it looks like it is going to be going to the loser's bracket in the tournament. Because there's absolutely... Oh, jeez. These poor interceptors. Well, this one's moving really weird, so it's... Oh, and there it goes. All that's left is a single interceptor right there, courageously firing a single missile. I think it might be out of ammunition into that carrier, which didn't even destroy a block. So yeah, that's going to be it for this battle, folks. The United Colors of Freedom by Harness are victorious, and we'll be moving on to the next round in the winner's bracket. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the battlefield, folks.